President Trump is escalating his fight with the Smithsonian's Museum of Natural History. That is right. Of all the things he has to work on, we've got this one. On Friday, he signed an executive order. Our president signed an executive order mandating content warning signs be placed outside of exhibits that do not, in his view, accurately represent American history. It comes after a disputed report accused the museum's director of radical activist ideology and the museum of undermining faith in American institutions. The group chat is still here. I want to start with our dear friend, historian John Meacham. He spoke about this earlier, and here's what he said.
There is a persistent element in the conservative movement that they have to feel under siege, right? Every day has to be a war. Every day is a battle. The History Museum has become a front in that sense of perpetual war. And this is a hugely important element of our politics right now. President Trump's appeal, I would argue, is that he has invested every single day with ultimate significance for those who are his followers.
The irony, in commercial break, we were talking about Steve Bannon, whose show is literally called The War Room. So is the goal at the end of the day, in the root of Trump and his MAGA movement, keep the culture wars going to push everything else aside?
Look, there's a huge part of Trump's base that really wants to have these culture wars. A big part, I bet you it's like intellectual base. People that sort of write about him online and talk about him all the time.
Intellectual.
But this is one of those things that sort of puts me back in my, I have a little, my little shorthand that Trump is Biden now, right? This is a situation where
what?
We are dealing with an affordability election, right? We're dealing with a conversation. Americans want, prices are too high. They're concerned about stuff. And the president is talking about what's in a museum, right? This is the kind of stuff that he would talk about, Democrats talking about when he ran in 2024. The focus on what are people talking about when they talk about history? How, what are the right things you're allowed to say and not allowed to say? All those things. That is not a very good winning, a winning message really in an election that's based on affordability. But this administration is hoping that they can sort of rekindle that culture war stuff that they've used before and sort of move aside from some of these other stuff that are bad for them, like the Iran war and the gas prices, I think.
You can lead with a culture war when everybody is doing fine and dandy, not when people are struggling.
Right. I also think that it's a bit of a waving of a white flag on this, that they're just putting a sign out front and not going in and changing everything.
That's really interesting. What do you think of this?
I look forward to these signs. I think that a lot more people are going to visit the American History Museum and learn about our history when they see these signs. It's going to it's like an arrow pointing at the museum. Yeah, so cool. Why not?
Well,
controversial stuff in here.
Thought,
it's a banned book sign on the outside of the thing.
No, I mean, the OpenAI does a deal with Amazon. Amazon scraps the movie about Sam Altman and OpenAI. Now an independent producer is putting out the film, and everybody I know wants to go see it.
Right. So two things. First of all, one of the reasons they're putting the signs up is because they control National Park Service space outside of the museums. They don't control the museum itself. I do want to highlight one aspect of this, though. Meacham's obviously very right, Evan. You're correct in your take as well. But there is an undercurrent here of race. A lot of this is downstream from the emergence of BLM, the backlash that occurred in 2020. That became a moment when race in particular became extremely partisan, polarized, before 2020, but from 2014 on. This is about how they don't like that the American History Museum talks about the racial past of the United States. And this is a central element of Donald Trump's culture war fight, is saying, no, you're right, we can't denigrate the United States. We shouldn't talk about slavery. We shouldn't talk about race. And that's really what a lot of this is about. So not only does it play broadly to the culture war aspect and to John Meacham's point about, always being in a fight, but this particular thing is also touching on the racial anxieties of Donald Trump supporters.
Meanwhile, you've got Trump officials. They are voting to rewrite federal historic preservation rules that could make it easier for him to build his arch. So even if this is this is funny, this is cute. No, it's not. I mean, this arch, we're going to spend millions and millions of our taxpayer dollars on yet another tribute to Donald Trump. Or, by the way, D.C. is turning into an entire city that's just devoted to him.
Yeah. Well, look, every president in our history has been dedicated to something, committed to something so deeply that they're willing to risk their political standing. Like for Obama, it was healthcare, for example. For Biden, it was investing in the working class, spending a ton of money despite all the hits that he was going to take. For Donald Trump, it's decorating things and building things. And to some extent, the personal family corruption. He's so dedicated to these things that he's willing to go into a midterm election, as you said, about affordability and the war in Iran, talking about building structures in Washington, D.C. and putting gold leaf on the White House. It can only be because he just is so personally committed to this that's what he's.
Well, he knows that they're not going to be built after he's president, so he's got to do it now.
Yeah, well, they're not going to be built after we win the midterms because the president is focusing on all the wrong issues.
And
so
he
I don't think
didn't
it'll
try
get
to do either of these things in his first term when he wanted to get reelected, right? I mean, like, he marginally tried the grift first time around, but that was child's play compared to what we're doing now and to what we were discussing in the last segment. Neither he nor his family nor his allies care about the appearance of conflicts of interest. They're laughing all the way to the bank.
So Trump 2.0, the big thing is he's not really care that much about the midterms. He cares about making money and his legacy. That's it.
Well, he's you know what? Credit to him. He is super focused on both of those things.